The beginning of my career in the publishing side, after teaching, was with Alfred Publishing, which was an educational print publishing company at the time. And I was actually there for 21 years. First as the director of education, then as the executive VP. And then I moved to Columbia Pictures Publications, which was the print division of Columbia Pictures. And that was a big learning experience for me. First of all, Alfred was only educational, all original music, and small. At the time, I think 22 employees. When I went to Columbia, half of the catalog was educational because it owned Bellwin Music, which was in fact the company that owned the music that I had first written. So I went back and now was in control of my original catalog, which was kind of awesome. It was really fun. And I would look at pieces, why is this out of print? This was a great piece. They said, yeah, who wrote it? I said, I did. And everybody broke up, but it was really interesting. But that catalog was 50% educational, 50% pop, because we had all the Columbia Pictures titles, as well as we, in those days, had Universal, and we had Almo, and all of Gloria Estefan's music. I mean, so we did all the print. So if a new album came out, we would do the folio, the piano music, and then say, well, what will work for band, what will work for orchestra? So we would do everything. So that was really interesting for me because I was learning a new set of tools to work with. And also I went from 20-some-odd people to 285 people. So it was a big operation. And it was fun because I said, okay, how can I make this feel like a small family business when I have almost 300 people, 30 of which do not speak English at all? How am I going to build with this culture, and how am I going to make it happen? I started by making a deal with myself that I would walk the building and say hello to everybody every day. And that took about an hour and a half. And the building was the size of like 4 football fields. I mean, it was a whole big deal. And I would make a little map of the floor plan of the building and also of the warehouse and who was where. So when I walked into the warehouse, there were 12 people at packing stations, and I knew the first table was Bob and Mary, and I would each day memorize another few names. So by the end of like 3 months, I could walk the building and say hello to everyone by name. Knew enough Spanish to say hello, and if I saw one of them in a bar to be able to order a beer, and to say 2 more beers, dos más. I said I was good at that. And we had a big human resource department, and part of the deal was that every morning human resources had to come into my office and tell me anything I needed to know about any of the employees. So if I went to Mary's station in the folding table in the print shop, I could say, Mary, I heard that your son has been sick. Is everything okay? Is there anything we could do? And I was just on a mission to make every one of the people there trust me and believe in me, because the previous president had been on the floor, as they would call it, once in the last month, and I was there once every day. And I did that for 3 months, and then I cut back to 3 days a week. And for 10 years, 3 days a week, I walked the plant. And it changed the culture, only because people felt people cared about them, and they wanted to make us successful. And they made the company turn around. I didn't do it. They did it. My leadership was letting them be leaders. I made everyone in the company work in the warehouse. Everybody had to put in an hour a week. So because I wanted the warehouse people and the print shop people to know in quote, the executives and the creative people. I also wanted them to know what goes on downstairs. Because you would hear a salesman on the phone saying, the warehouse must have screwed up. I'm sorry you got 2 instead of 1, or I'm sorry you got the wrong book. I said, you're putting down your own team. You go down there and pick the book. See if you can do it 100%. And if you're so smart, maybe you'll figure out why they made the mistake and come up with a better system. And I'll never forget one day, the bins were like 6 high, I think. So the top one, you were really, oh, sorry, it just nailed you. You really were stretching. And the bottom ones, you were on your knees. And I looked down the row, and at this one day, there were 3 of us picking, who were all, in quote, executives. And there were 3 PhDs. And I just started to laugh. And I said, you know what? We got 3 PhDs here. We're all complaining that our backs are killing us, that we're stretching for these things. What are we doing wrong? And one of the guys said, I don't know, I keep reaching for the top shelf. It's killing me. The other guy said, I'm bending all the time. And I said, do you think you're reaching for the top more than the middle? He said, yeah. So I said, wait a second. And I grabbed the phone and I called the head of the computer department. And I said, Norman, get down here. And he came down. He said, what's it with his tie on? He said, what's wrong? I said, we're killing ourselves here. I keep reaching up there. He keeps reaching down there. Can you do an analysis of how many times each book is picked? Not how many we sell. Because I don't care if you take 50 out. I want to know how many times you go to that bin. He said, yeah. I said, I want you to analyze. Now, this was 35,000 products we had. I want you to analyze that. And then I want you to come up with some kind of program that will put all of the product that we picked the most in the 3rd shelf, the next in the 4th, the next in the 2nd, the next in the 1st, and the next in the 6th. So you reach this way 70% of the time, and reach this way 1% of the time. Can you do that? He said, yeah. And it took him about a week, and then it took us about 2 weeks to move the inventory. So he then had to write a program that says everything that's in E6 has to be moved to E1, but E1 gets moved to, and we did it. And the following month, the efficiency in the warehouse went up almost 15%. And the amount of people that went home with back problems that were out of work just started to go away. So it was, and it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have 3 PhDs bitching about how hard this work was. So there's lots of ways of managing. Sometimes it comes from little things. We used to put, when Post-its first came out, we would buy the Post-its and would put them on a book if it was in the wrong place and put, no, should be number so-and-so, should be number so-and-so. And one of the secretaries who was working came down, and she said, after she worked, she came to my office and she said, Sandy, I think we can save some money. I said, okay, what? She said, I did an analysis of how much money we spend on Post-its. And what I looked at in the warehouse, we're writing, there's one number on it. Did you know they make a narrow Post-it that's half the size? I said, no, I didn't know that. I've never used one. She said, well, in the secretarial pool, we use that. And I did an analysis, and based on this, we can save, I think it was $500 in the course of a year by switching to the smaller Post-it. Okay, so she got the award for that month, which we did. We had lunches every month, and people would get awards and stuff. It was great. It was so much fun. And then when we sold the company to Warner Brothers, I stayed on for another 3 years as the president of the new company. And we sold to Warner, but actually we closed the Warner plant in New Jersey and moved them into our plant. So even though Warner Brothers bought Columbia Pictures, from a standpoint of personnel, we added 20 Warner people and kept the Columbia people.